Welcome to another edition of the Pair and a Spare podcast. I'm Justin Gard from The Fan. We've got Ryan Burns from GopherIllustrated.com and Chip Scoggins from the Star Tribune. The Twitter pressure was hot this week, guys. My mentions were flooded with Pair and a Spare fans basically saying, hello, anybody here? Anybody going to do a show? It's been a lot of stuff that's gone on. Football season's less than a month away. Where are you guys? I completely blamed Chip. For not having a calendar and being so hard to track down and needing to lend his hand to all that Star Tribune Vikings coverage, the four beat writers and columnists that are there every day. Not enough. We got to get more purple talk on StarTribune.com. We need more videos that look like hostage situations from the field at TCO. So I blamed you, Chip, for the delay here, but we're happy to be here. I know I am.
I've been doing projects, man. I've been busy.
I'm going to start. I thought about this walking down the steps today. I'm going to start calling you Mr. Projects in honor of Sid Hartman, the late, great Sid Hartman, who would always isolate one thing. Hey, Mr. Projects. Hey, how many Americans can a guy stay at? Hey, Mr. Projects, because that's your life now. You're just Mr. Projects.
What was it when Jerry Zagota, my colleague, went to, was it Antarctica with, who was the explorer? And for the rest of time, for the rest of time, he was known as Mr. North Pole.
People have been called a lot worse by Sid.
Hey, yeah, that's true. No, it's good to be back. I was at Vikings for a little bit, but we gotta get this thing rolling, right?
I think
training camp starts today.
Here, Chipper, you're the busiest man in America, apparently.
Not me. Fall camp starts today. Let's go. College football's on the clock. Yeah.
All right. Well, Burnsy and I are ready to commit to weekly episodes.
I can.
It's mostly up to Mr. Projects. I mean, take a look at your brain because you don't write anything down, and let us know.
Still haven't got the calendar.
Free and available.
Still haven't got the calendar.
Burnsy, you clearly are inspired by the Twins' 15-2 loss in New York last night. You've got your Twins jersey, and I'm sure you're wearing your Twins jersey because you're fired up about trade deadline day today as we record this. The Twins are just hours away from making some big-time, bold financial moves to help this team win. Help this team be back on Bally Sports North on Xfinity here coming up on Friday. I know you're fired up.
Well, award is an homage to you because I know you haven't been able to watch the Twins for 2.5 months now. Yeah. And anytime Dustin Morse tweets something out, you just go, I wish I could watch it.
That's about true. Or when the Twins say, Carlos Correa with a 2-run homer, I'll say, I have to take your word for it. I can't second source this one. Yeah, I think the last play I saw of Twins baseball was Royce Lewis getting hurt on his second at bat of the season. I think that was literally the last time I watched the Twins game on Bally. But
you're pretty good in the 100 games since then. So
right.
I'm excited for you to be able to come back and watch them in that White Sox series this weekend.
That's going to be electric.
It's going to be electric, especially after I think Lehman tweeted out last night. They're one of two teams as we sit here on Tuesday morning that haven't made a move yet. And all I can think of is God bless the Pollad protectors if and when they can't add any more salary today.
It is too bad. I had high hopes for my generation of Pollad, too. I think I've told you my life in Edina was Joe Pollad adjacent. He always seemed to be like one neighborhood away, where they have like a moat and gates, and like the cool kids would be at Joe Pollad's somehow. Like, where's so-and-so tonight? She was with me last night. Oh, she's with Joe Pollad tonight. Sorry, buddy. Like, that's how it happened. And I had high hopes that he would be the one to break this bizarre curse, this bizarre aversion that the Pollads have of just doing the best that they can with the financial resources that they have. But it doesn't look like young Joe is going to do that for us, Chipper.
Well, when his first act on the job is to tell you he's slashing payroll after winning a playoff series, you knew the bar was lowered at that point for you.
What's the opposite of rolling over in a grave? Because they always say, oh, Carl would be rolling over in his grave. What's the 180-degree opposite? Because you got to imagine he's just beaming with pride,
smiling.
That his grandson is carrying on the family tradition.
What is that? Is that a generic jersey, Burnsy, or do we got a name on the back of that one?
This one is a Miguel Sano jersey, so obviously it did not age well at any point. When I think when my girlfriend turned into my wife back 7 years ago, when she got this for me, I was like, yeah, Sano will probably be the one that sticks around. That's why you don't really commit to that type of thing anymore.
Man, that is something. A Miguel Sano jersey. That really is something. You've had some interesting wardrobe choices over the years. The Miguel Sano jersey. You're going down with the Miguel Sano ship. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's absolutely brilliant. All right. Well, people have been waiting for the pod, as we mentioned, and we appreciate that. And you can follow us at Pair and Spare Pod on Twitter. I would recommend that you do that with a lot of giveaways, I'm sure, coming up here in the next couple of months. The first Gopher game, less than a month away now. It was a month from yesterday, August 29th against North Carolina. Chip was too busy to come to Indy this last week for Big Ten Media Day. And what a missed opportunity to go to one of the finest cities in America, the city that should host everything. I don't know why more people aren't talking about this, considering moving the capital to Indianapolis. I think everything should be held in Indy. That's well documented. But Bernsey, you and I spent, 24 hours in the great city of Indianapolis? You and I both did the fly-in day before, fly out the night of bit, which is a great way to do it. I can't imagine sitting there for 3 full days like some other people in our traveling party did. But what will you always remember about Media Days 2024?
I think watching you and Grimmer in the hotel room just go back and forth like you've been together 28 years and married, with the way that you should have seen them, Chipper. They're both sitting on the couch, just going back and forth, telling stories, just getting in little digs at one another. I was sitting there at like 11:30 at night, just laughing my tail off.
Yeah, it is something if you're not around us all the time. To see how we are. Well, Chip, I need a ruling on this. So the biggest beef, and Bernsey can attest to this, is I flew in a little bit. Grim got there like a week and a half ago. And Bernsey texted me, "Why is Mike going to Media Day on Monday?" And my reply was, he has nothing else to do. He can sit in Indy and do literally nothing. He claims he did a lot of work. He talked to Kirk Ferentz for like 4.5 minutes for the Iowa Sports Network, because that's one of his other jobs. And so I was getting in late on Tuesday night
Wednesday night. They didn't go till Thursday. He got there Monday.
What?
Minnesota didn't go till Thursday.
Yeah, Minnesota went Thursday. So I went in on Wednesday night. Bernsey went in Wednesday afternoon. We were all kind of sweating the Delta thing. And I know the hotel that we stay at, Grim does a great job in finding the accommodations. This is like to save our company money, we all stay in the same hotel room, but it's like one of those, what was it even? Like the Candlewood Suites or something. It's like one of those Homewood Suites type hotels that has a full kitchen and all that.
Yeah.
Right across from Lucas Oil. It's like 4 minutes from our room to walk into the media entrance. Super smooth.
Perfect.
It's not downtown, which is fine for me, because I don't really go there for that long. Now, I sleep on the pull-out couch. No issues. It's great. But when I get to Indianapolis, Chip, on a Wednesday night, I need to make sure I have my amenities. I need to make sure that there's things waiting for me in the room, because I'm not going to be able to stop. And so for 2 days, I'm like, hey, make sure you grab a couple of Coors Lights or something from across the street.
Yeah.
There's a Speedway right there. Just have those in the refrigerator. So when I get there, I can just sit back on the couch, crack one, and we can tell old stories. Empty refrigerator.
Oh, my gosh.
Empty refrigerator when I got there. And I just –
that's –
Bernsey, how far away is the Speedway from our place?
It can't be more than
200 yards?
2 blocks, a block and a half, maybe.
Less than a block. Less than that. He's there for 2 full days doing nothing. By the way, in the meantime, because these guys hadn't gotten back yet, I was able to go to the Speedway myself. So Bernsey, but I didn't have a key to get into the room. So these two came upon me, and it looked like I was waiting for my bus, sitting on a bench, just brown bagging it outside of whatever the hotel. But you can see.
That's a fail. That's a fail. That's a fail for.
It's a friendship fail, isn't it?
100%. You have to have the refrigerator stocked and ready.
Just a little bit. Yeah,
he was so busy. I don't know why you're hating on him so much. He was so busy for 72 hours telling us about all the different places he went to eat.
Yeah.
And all the different 4-minute interviews he did. What do you mean?
Yeah. Did I look depressed sitting on the bench, or did I look like it was exactly where I wanted to be at that moment of time?
Just turn the corner, and we're like, is that Guardsy? We're a couple hundred yards away. Just a guy slumped back in his chair. Brown bag. There's a suitcase outside, and we're just like 11:30. It's Indianapolis on like a Wednesday. It's like, boy, that's a sight to behold.
Yep. And so I did see you take the picture of me, which is why I was able to turn last minute. So anyway, that's just it for all the guys going out to road trips and stuff. If you're going to UCLA, if you're going to Michigan this year, and you got friends arriving at different times, like take care of your buddies. Take care of your buddies. That's all I'm going to say. as we always say, take care of those that take care of you. That's why we appreciate Jack's Cafe sponsoring this podcast. I'm sure Bill loves the content so far. It's been nothing but great stuff here on this show. So besides me living my best life on the bench in the middle of the night, waiting for you guys to get back, Bernsey, what do you were there any takeaways for you from Media Day? Anything you didn't know that you learned? Anything that jumped out? It's a lot of talking, as we know, and a lot of answering and asking of the same questions.
Yeah, it's a lot of talking, and that's where, just for context, I don't know that people necessarily know how much talking there is. So, for example, PJ Fleck gives his 15-minute speech on BTN, and then us local reporters get him for about 10 minutes off to the side, and then everybody gets him once again for 45 to 50 minutes at the podium. So that's 70-ish minutes of transcribing, plus he's out there doing BTN hits. CBS Sports was there as well. He's doing a bunch of different things. So a lot of coaches, and it's just not Fleck, that say a lot of words. I think to me, the thing that it was interesting to hear PJ he liked to talk about the passing game this time around. And I don't know who's letting him know that some of us, maybe in the media, have been critical of the passing game, but it was interesting to kind of hear him go, like, we do like to pass the ball. You know, I was a receiver.
Yeah.
You know, and one of Guardsy's favorite bits, I know this chipper, was Fleck mentioned, and I think he's probably going to end up being right in it, and that he's going to have coached 4 of the top, what did he say, 7 or 8?
Well, it varied. It was 4 of 10 for sure.
Yep.
And then as he narrowed it down, he said, we think maybe 4 out of the top 7 that we've had all time here, wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about it, because we did.
That was a discussion.
He's probably right. He's probably right.
I would also say football's changed.
Yeah.
That, you know, college football for years, they didn't throw the ball. They ran the ball. So it's
right.
A little bit apples and oranges there. Let's compare it to modern day. I mean, I know he's sensitive about it, but what it was our great late friend Flip Saunders used to say, truth can't be controversial. When you look at their stats, they've had one of the least productive, effective passing games in major college football. I mean, there's no arguing that.
Right. And it's been a problem. And it's hindered.
If he's arguing counter that, then it's a major problem because he doesn't realize that it's been one of the least productive things. If he's trying to tell us that they've been a productive passing offense, then we're on different wavelengths here.
I think his point was more so he was proving that they have thrown the ball when they have talent, and they think they have talent in Daniel Jackson. Now we'll see what they have behind him. But that was even one of the things I talked with Max Brosmer about was Tanner Morgan in 2019 threw the ball 318 times. That's the most amount a single Gopher quarterback in the Fleck era has thrown the football. It comes out, for those of you who don't want to do the math at home, and the pride of the East Side, Oakdale, Minnesota, contrary to where Chip is currently residing in Woodbury, it's just a shade under 25 times per game. And so I looked at Max and I asked him, does that surprise you that they haven't thrown the ball that consistently in the 7 years of Fleck before you? And he goes, it doesn't shock me, but I also think every year is a new year. And again, I think I've gone on record multiple times saying I think Brosmer ends up breaking that passing attempts record from Tanner in the Fleck era this year. But it's interesting to kind of hear from Fleck that he knows it's a problem, but he's also, you know, the word balance was thrown around a few different times, Guardsy.
Yep. Yeah, well, he knows it's a problem. There's a lot of things we know are problems. The big thing is, are you going, and he even hinted at this. By the way, I get a lot out of that 45 minutes, by the way. Like, Media Day for me is, I think, a lot of wasted time. Like, you saw us, Bernsey. We're done by, like, we do our radio show. I mean, I could have left at 10:30 on Thursday morning if I wanted to. My work was literally done. I actually get a lot out of those podiums, even though they're even more formal than they used to be. Chip, you remember when they were the tables, and you'd just be all around the scrum, and you could really get great. Good stuff. Yeah. You could it's probably a little bit it was probably a little better back then because you could get more, one-on-one. You could get a couple more follow-ups. You could bounce around more. It's more formal. Like, I think the coaches know that everybody's paying attention to what they're saying. It's always being filmed right there. But I get a lot out of those podiums, and it was interesting to hear him talk about the passing stuff. And I think he said something, Bernsey, you can correct me, basically, like, he feels like he did kind of blow it in not staying with it a little bit more and trying not to, we've talked about it on this pod for years. One incompletion, all of a sudden they won't throw for 3 weeks, or one interception in the red zone and they won't throw the rest of the game. Like, he shuts it down. That's his biggest challenge this year is you got to just let them grow through some of those things. Let them play through mistakes. They're going to happen. It's football. Like, it's okay. And not just completely shut it down, especially if you have running back issues, which they had a year ago as well. So they were kind of screwed always.
Yeah. Go back to the balance thing. I mean, when people hear balance, they think 50-50. It's never going to be that. But to me, it's balance where there's enough of it that you respect it and that it keeps the defense guessing. Now it's like, and that's always been my frustration with him. A big part of it is that there'll be a drop pass or a bad throw. And he's like, you know what? We can beat this team just running the ball 100 million times in a row. And that's what they do. And it's like, you don't develop that confidence, that rhythm. And I always make the comparison. It's not a light switch.
Right.
So when you get against a better team, you can't just, and you haven't nurtured your passing game and worked on it and developed it and got the rhythm and chemistry. You can't just flip a switch and say, oh my gosh, it's 3rd and 7. We need to pass the ball here and it's crucial and it's going to work. That's not how it works. And so that's where I hope in his self-evaluation and I don't know if that's a lack of, that's just who he is, trestle ball ingrained in him, or it was the lack of trust in his quarterback, lack of trust in his overall wide receiver core. But you hope that when things maybe don't look the way he wants it to in the passing game, that he just sticks with it and say, you know what, this is just part of it. We know we can run the ball, but we've got to develop this so it's a more well-rounded offense.
Well, how many Monday morning press conferences have we gone to since 2019, Chipper, where it's Fleck coming in and lamenting the passing game and lamenting the inconsistencies, whether in pass protection, the receivers dropping passes, the quarterback making errant throws and decisions. And that's one of the things I've wrote quite a bit coming into this year is I'm so tired of that Monday morning. We've had the same thing year after year after year. And so that's where it's even a Big Ten Media Days. You hear Fleck acknowledge it, and that's great. But then it's the whole old adage of I hear what you say and I trust what you do. And to that point we're all making, I hear you acknowledge that it's a problem. Well, what happens in the third quarter against North Carolina when Max Brosmer gets picked off or Elijah Spencer drops a pass? Like, you're going to need the passing game for 4 quarters to beat North Carolina. Yeah, you probably won't need it against Nevada or Rhode Island, but when NBC comes to town, when the Pigs on the line against Iowa in Game 4, you better have the resemblance of a passing game. Why did you beat Iowa last year? Because you had a couple of explosive plays from the passing game in the second half that sustained you. And so that's where my hope is, whether it's Max Brosmer coming in, second year of Greg Harbaugh, whether it's the introduction of what I think is going to be a quicker passing game between Brosmer's strengths, Darius Taylor, some of these tight ends, you hope that they finally work on it because, to Chip's point, it's not a light switch, and we've seen that now for years.
Well, you mentioned a quick passing game. You go back to 2019. How many slants and quick hitting stuff did we see from Tanner Morgan to those guys? I mean, it felt like they just slanted teams. I mean, they couldn't stop it, and it's like those are high percentage passes that you didn't have to throw a lot of those. And if you go back and you look at, and Fleck has challenged me to do this, I did it. That 2019, the attempts weren't like radically or dramatically different than what they were in other years. Just they connected on them. Right. They're just more efficient with it. And I think that's, if you ask PJ like what balance means, I think it just means being more efficient in the passing game. And they're never going to be a high volume attempts team, I don't think. Maybe he'll stun us all, but they just have to be more efficient. And we talked about the drops. I do wonder if just the lack of attempts there, that guys are just out of rhythm and not, it's almost like a surprise when the ball comes to them. And they're more pronounced. It just feels like they have an inordinate number of drops. And I think it's more pronounced because they don't throw the ball that often. When you do drop one, it just seems like it's a killer for this offense.
I think he also said in that scrum that even at their best or most balanced, quote unquote, they're at like 58% running the ball. He said, even when we've thrown it really efficiently, we're still running at 58%, which I remember, I'm sure I've brought this up. When you looked at his Western Michigan teams, especially the last one that just boat raced everybody, you're like, man, they're scoring 45 points a game. They must be, airing it out all over. It's PJ. I see him jumping into the locker room, the whole bit. Like, oh no, they ran it 60% of the time at Western Michigan too. They just hit on their passing plays. They had a good receiver and they had a good quarterback. And I also wonder, Bernsey, having Darius Taylor as a former wide receiver and a quarterback who apparently loves the check down. He's very public about his affection for the check down pass.
Yep.
You would think, and I know you wrote about this week, getting Darius involved in the passing game, you would think makes a lot of sense for a number of reasons. You're throwing it more, and you're getting the ball in your hands of probably your best playmaker and your best opportunity at probably an all Big Ten guy besides Daniel Jackson. I hope we see a lot of that. I hope they get him the ball out in space on the run with, throwing the ball a little bit. That's another way to kind of steal some passing attempts too this year that should be pretty easy.
I agree. Now, Chipper, before I get into that, can you guess what is the most amount of receptions a single running back at the University of Minnesota has had during the Fleck era? What is the season high for a single running back?
Did your internet go out?
Yeah, 12 games. No,
or you just thinking?
I don't even. 20? I don't know. 15,
I was going to
20?
say like 13.
I was going to say 15. 15 to 20.
It's 17, and Rodney Smith did that back in 2017.
I knew it had to be Rodney.
So
not
even 1.5 a game. Yeah. Rodney, that's what I had in my mind. I was trying to think of.
Yeah, and that's where Max Brosmer, the last 2 seasons at New Hampshire, has thrown it to the running backs 184 times.
Wow.
184 targets. Now, context within that, the best player at New Hampshire was Dylan Laub, who is now a 5th-round draft pick of the Las Vegas Raiders. So when you have an NFL running back in the CAA, you're going to probably try to get him the ball in space as much as you possibly can. But that being said, I'm also one of the believers of a shorter passing game or a quarterback checking down is a very quarterback-specific thing. And so I think Minnesota would be foolish to not try and introduce Darius Taylor, C.A. Bangura, who caught 50 passes at Ohio the last few years, and even just getting Jamison Gears and their tight ends more involved. Because if you're going to have issues at receiver in terms of drops, whatever it may be, my biggest thing for this offense, and you were mentioning it, Chip, was why was 2019 so successful? They didn't throw it a ton, but they were the most efficient passing offense when you look at the statistics in all the Big Ten. And that was one of the other things I looked at was they were also number 1 in yards per attempt. They were over 10, which is gaudy. It's explosive. And that's where last year they were at 6.5. I mean, they almost dropped 4 yards per attempt. And what was last year? It was not efficient in the passing game. It was not explosive. And to me, those two things go hand in hand. So if you can keep the offense efficient with, say, shorter throws, getting into 2nd and 5, 2nd and 3, 3rd and short, the play sheet for a Greg Harbaugh gets a lot longer. If you can stay on schedule, I think you can become more explosive, but I don't think you can do one without the other.
Yeah, and you know what, guys, and I think one, for me, the most defining moments last year was that last game against Wisconsin. Was it Daniel? I forgot who the receiver was that was over.
Elijah Spencer.
And he's wide open. And Calic Manis airmails him.
Yeah. No pressure around him.
No pressure. He just airmails him. And you would think, look, I never played college quarterback, but that for a college quarterback, you think that's a routine throw. And he airmails him. And the look on PJ's face at that point, I knew it. Like you knew it was over. Like this was not going to work for PJ. It's like that's what you want Brosmer to be able to do. You're not asking for like spectacular, 50-yard bombs. Just complete the passes that look like you should be able to complete them, right? And I think too often we saw that they're at their feet, behind them, over their head, passes that you would expect a Big Ten quarterback to be able to make. If you can do that, I mean, that cleans up a lot of the mistakes too. I mean, there's just too many times where these routine passes that should be routine, they would just not convert. And so I think that's where PJ lost his confidence and his trust in his passing game too, as much as anything.
Right.
Or we talked about the drops or the interceptions. It's just like not being able to make the routine throws. I think that's where he just says, he gets frustrated and just says, forget it. We're just going to run the ball. And it's like, I'm hoping Brosner, I haven't seen him, but we heard a lot about his accuracy and his timing and his instincts and those things. I hope that's what shows up as being his strengths as much as anything, just being able to make those kind of throws.
Go ahead, Bernsey.
You mentioned the Athan part, and that was one of the other things where PJ didn't name Athan specifically in any of his press conferences, but he talked about pretty religiously not verbatim, but essentially paraphrasing here, at the end of the season, we knew we had to go to the transfer portal and get a guy, and he was going to be the guy. And so without him specifically saying, on November 29th, we knew we had to go get a guy, the guy. It wasn't going to be a competition at any point. We had to go to get a transfer portal quarterback who was going to be QB1. I wish he would have put a time frame at least publicly, in terms of when did that conversation internally actually happen, PJ? Was it December 1st? Was it December 15th? When was it? But it was interesting to kind of hear him say, we knew we needed to go get a guy. It had to be the guy to come in here.
I would bet it happened late in the season or at some point during the season where it just was not. and there's a fine line between being patient and wanting the guy to develop and trying to help him develop versus this is not working. It's just not, for whatever reason, it's not clicking, that we're not seeing the kind of steps, the step-by-step progress, the improvement. And again, that was game 12. A throw, you don't base everything on one throw because there's going to be, but there was just too many of those where you weren't seeing improvement. And so I don't think he woke up the day after the season and said, we need a quarterback in the portal. I bet it was some conversation that was happening the last month of the season.
I think it may have even been happening earlier. I think part of the reason why they shut a lot of this stuff down is because they had no confidence in what was going on even earlier than what we're talking. I mean, even think about the North Carolina game, and we were there.
The missed opportunities there,
wide open receivers.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't have drawn up plays any better, especially in that first half when they were, kind of fighting for their life there, and he just missed. And then obviously he left the game with cramps. Remember, he had the cramping.
Imagine if Cole Kramer hits that.
Cole Kramer throws the one.
Jackson,
I know.
Who's wide open over the middle of the field.
Yeah.
What happens? I mean,
or if Nathan hits Corey Crooms.
I don't know.
Yeah, because wasn't it Corey Crooms that was open earlier in that first half, just wide open, like 10 yards
Missed
clear of anybody, and the pass was just completely airmailed. I think conversations started pretty shortly after that. Like, do we have the right fit here? Do we have the right guy? That's just my speculation. By the way,
and I do say with Brosmer is like when I look at the Gophers, I think they're really good across the lines, offensively and defensively. I think that's, you like what they have there. Darius Taylor, you got one of the best playmakers in the Big Ten. Daniel Jackson is a very good receiver, and then we'll see what the other things. So he's being surrounded by some good pieces here and some parts.
Yeah.
And so he just has to show that he can run an offense, make and that's why, Burns, to your point, like those quick hitting passes, timing passes, whether it's dump offs, screens, whatever, play to his strengths and just get a rhythm with your passing case. There's just no rhythm. There's been no rhythm with this passing game at all the last couple of years, and it's hard to win that way.
It is. I mean, even to your point there with the lines hopefully being a strength, that's where Fleck said that he believes this is the most talented defensive line group in his now 8 years at Minnesota, which I hope he's right.
I would agree with that.
Because as much time as we spent talking about the offense on this show, Minnesota lost games in the Big Ten last year where they scored 26, 30, and 34 points last year.
Good point.
Yeah.
Why they finished below 500 wasn't the offense's fault, in my opinion. It was because the defense screwed the pooch against Northwestern and Illinois and then made Purdue just look like USC. I mean, we're talking about a brand new defense, which if you can get, you return 6 or 8 guys up front. You have a couple of really good pass rushers and Jod Joyner, Danny Strigo. Hopefully we can see more out of Devin Eastern, Jalen Logan Redding,
Anthony
Smith.
I think Anthony Smith to me is the one that had a really high ceiling. He just has to get
he's the one that is going to be first off the bus. We just saw him a couple weeks ago. He's 285 pounds.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, Fleck let it slip at media days that maybe he's going to be sliding inside the defensive tackle at times. Like, if they can get consistent pressure with 4, especially when you look at some of the quarterbacks they're going to face early in the season, like the first 4 quarterbacks, whether it's North Carolina, who doesn't know who they're going to be starting at quarterback, but I can assure you it's not going to be Drake May. You have Nevada and Rhode Island, who are not good football teams. And then Iowa, we're going to see if Cade McNamara is healthy or if it's going to be Brennan Sullivan. But if you can get pressure on any of those first 4 games, That's going to change the scope of everything defensively because they were horrible. Minnesota was in stopping the run. They were the worst run defense in the Big Ten, and they just hemorrhaged explosive plays because of it. Turns out when opposing running backs, Chip, can run for about 6 yards a carry, and it's always second and 4, second and 3, you're going to get hit with a lot more explosive plays because that play sheet is longer.
Yeah. And don't you, I mean, even though you have a new coordinator, I got to imagine it's going to look pretty similar because of the tree, right?
That's what PJ said. I mean, he said that's what our personnel's been. That's what we've recruited to. That's why we went where we went in part, so that it could be a little bit. Now, it seems like Bernsey, he's more aggressive than maybe Arasi was just generally as an individual. I don't know in what he's done before, but it seems like, PJ likes to stick with what he knows and who he knows, right? So it seems like they are going to kind of stay in the same formations and everything.
Well, you've recruited for 7 years for a 4-3 defense. Now, I'd call it a 4-2-5, but let's not get too deep into the weeds here. It's not like you're going to completely switch up and go to a 3-4, and then it's like, okay, what are you going to do with Ja Joyner at that point? I don't want to see Ja Joyner in space trying to cover a running back out of the backfield. Peace and love to that young man. But, the word that's always been thrown around with Corey Heatherman is the word blitz. That's something that he did a lot with Cignetti at James Madison, whether he was with Harris Simiak at Maine. He likes to be aggressive. And that's where I asked Cody Lindenberg, I go, we haven't seen a lot of blitzing from linebackers here or just in general from anybody. What makes a good blitzer? And I thought it was an interesting answer that he gave was just no hesitation. If you know you're going, you have to go. You can't just think about it. You can't be a half step late. He explained it that Heatherman has told him, if anybody is slightly hesitating, you're just going to get caught by the offensive lineman, and the whole thing is just, you're going to screw the pooch, more or less. And so I'm going to be very curious to see, because we haven't seen a lot of blitzing, rarely at all. I mean, I would say less than 15% of the time, especially on passing downs from a Minnesota defense. So the other thing that goes hand in hand with that, Chip, if you're going to be blitzing, that means somebody's going to be on an island somewhere with somebody, and you hope they can cover.
That's it. I mean, we saw Joe Rossi have pretty much autonomy to run that defense. Is Heatherman going to have the same thing? And let's say he's blitzing a lot, and it's the old cliche: when you're blitzing a lot, they're going to catch you occasionally, and you might. Is PJ going to say, whoa? Is he still going to give him the same kind of free reign to kind of run that defense and call it how he wants, or do you think there'll be a little bit more monitoring from PJ?
No, I think, all of Flex, I mean, think about where he was before. He's only known the offensive side of the ball his whole life. It's not to say he doesn't know what's going on defensively, but I think that was probably part of the sell from Fleck was, I'm an offensive guy. You're a defensive guy. I'm going to pretty much let you do what you want to do here. At least that's the way I kind of understand it.
That would make sense. The other highlight for me, Chip, from Media Day, and I don't know if you have other ones, Bernsey, is you should have seen our boy Bernsey. Sport coat, nice jeans.
I saw a video.
And now, here's how big Bernsey is. He had his own little side room.
That's what I heard.
Media Days, where now I might suggest next year bring a light or a lamp. It looked a little dark in there from the videos that I watched.
It was mood lighting. Just
candles in there. What was
it looked like they were being interrogated. I'm not going to lie. It looked like you were bringing them in on some.
Everybody's a critic now.
But you should have seen Bernsey all grown up. I mean, he's wearing his Miguel Sano jersey today. He's got his nice shirt, looked like it just been pressed. He's got his sport coat on, and he's just rolling.
Darn well his wife put that outfit out for him too, like made him try it on. So
it came from Amazon, where Bernsey's, or after he got roasted for the bowling shirt. Remember how we cost him like $500 in wardrobe on Amazon Prime. But you should have seen this guy, big time grown up media guy, had one-on-ones with all three players. That's pretty big time
That's
stuff,
awesome.
Bernsey.
God bless CBS Sports now becoming a partner of the Big Ten Network, where obviously my parent company now aligns with some Big Ten schools. So then you get to be able to finesse a little bit of one-on-one time with these players. So that was.
When will the Ryan Burns Show start streaming on Paramount Plus, and is it included in my GopherIllustrated.com VIP subscription?
Yeah, we'll have to ask Chip, see if we can get that on schedule.
I did see the video with him and Brosmer. Or I didn't see the video, but I saw the screenshot. I'm like, what is this?
How about
that? Him all cleaned up with his hair slicked back and the sport coat on.
Man. That's part of the reason we couldn't do a Pair and a Spare podcast from Indianapolis, because you had Viking stuff, Chip, and
I'm missing in action. And
you're nowhere to be found. And Burnsy's got big time side room.
He just gave you the Heisman. Hey, don't worry, I got bigger things here than pair to spare.
Yeah.
Don't forget about us when you move on.
Yeah, that was big time. So, did you get anything? In particular from any of the guys that you liked that maybe we haven't discussed, or anything that piqued your interest on your on the Ryan Burns show?
Well, I think another reason that Chip's going to like Brosmer is because, Chip, did you know that Brosmer's got a country single that's out on every streaming platform now?
I heard he was Randy Johnson, my colleague, went down to a get-together he had there, and he pulled out the guitar and played a song. He said he was good. So, hey, he grows up a Braves fan. That was in my wheelhouse. Murph, 1980s. Yeah.
That's Dale Murphy for the kids out there.
Yeah, we all wanted to be Murph, man. Backyard wiffle ball. We all.
They talk in text more than people know. So they're on They're on a nickname basis now. All right.
If I met Murph, I don't get starstruck. I might get starstruck over Murph. But yeah, I heard that. So yeah, he's a talented guy. I haven't heard it though. I got to Google it though.
I like the fact that here's the other thing, going back to the passing game real quickly, is if you like him, PJ said at the podium, like, he's exceeded every expectation. Okay. That's what a coach says on July 25th, right?
Everybody wins the offseason. Go listen to all 18
that's right,
coaches.
However, I mean, I remember sitting in the room I'm sitting in right now talking to him on like January 12th, right when he got here. And he was like, speaking of dark bunkers, I think in one of the rooms at the facility watching film at like 6 a.m. He's clearly putting in all the time. I mean, doing these things like, hanging out with Brian Callahan, talking about protections over, Pop-Tarts in the facility. If he's going to do all that and you're going to be impressed by all of that and he's locked in, it looks like, on every part of the offense, let him drive it. Like, he's not doing all that so he can turn around and hand it off and go, 32 power. Like, he's not doing all that so he can just pitch it to Darius and say, go to work. Like, he's doing that so that he can drive this car effectively. So I hope that trust, that gives it that responsibility. I hope that gives him more trust with the whole thing.
Well, that's the thing. If you're a coach, that's what you want to see, right, from your quarterback. I mean, that's how you earn trust. Well, they always say time on task, right? If you're in there, and it sounds like Brosmer has done that. Well, really, going back to the bowl game, right? He shows up for a week and he's like, becoming a leader. Yeah.
Unlike you, he found value.
That's right. He's got more time on task than me with the bowl game. No, but that's how you earn trust. That's how you, and not only your coaches, but your teammates. And listen, he's done everything that you would want from a guy coming here that's coming in as a starter, literally everything. And so now it's just, how do you perform? Right. I mean, you got to be able to do it on the field. And so I'm curious to just see in camp how it looks and how it all comes together.
The only other thing I think I'd note from media days before we can talk about something else, I suppose,
I think we've gotten a lot out of media day.
Yeah.
I mean, we're almost at 40 minutes and we've talked media. I'm media dayed out. I feel like I'm Mike Grimm. I've been there since Monday, but go ahead.
He did let this little 2-sentence slide in there, and I felt like it was just for me. They want to become more explosive in the special teams game, Chipper. It's part of the reason they went out and got Legashevsky.
Corey Parrish. Put him back there day one. I've said it from the beginning. Now you have to. I mean, the fair catching and all that. I mean, you're getting nothing out of, your special teams. And it's such people that have listened to this podcast know how much we've railed about those special teams. But I think the explosiveness across the board, they got to get more explosive on offense. They got to get more explosive in. Yeah.
Explosive on defense, explosive everywhere.
I mean, you look at offense, it's so hard to just maintain 12-play drives all the time and score. Like, you got to get some explosive plays there. And same thing with the kicking game. Imagine how, you get a 50-yard punt return or kickoff return for a touchdown, how that just changes everything. And it's like, they're just not getting that. And so I think explosive across the board should be their mindset and trying to make things, like you say, Guard, make things easier on themselves.
Or even when Flex said, we had the Big Ten kicker of the year, but if you have the Big Ten kicker of the year, that probably means you weren't very good on offense.
Yeah, that was a great line. I like that.
Yeah.
He's right.
Yes.
He's right.
And I know some Iowa fans somehow made it about them, but that was, to me at least, just directed at the offense last year where they could get over 30 and then they would stall, and then you'd have to use John Kessage.
Yeah,
no, totally, because that got
it's a shot at themselves. I think.
Yeah, that's how that. I don't get in Twitter battles as much as I used to. I've told you I had an epiphany. I think like New Year's Eve 2017 or 2018. I thought, what am I doing with my life here, arguing with people on social media? So if you do, I mean, you can still try, because every once in a while, as Kirk Herbstreit once said, the animals at the zoo bite back. Every once in a while, you can still get me, but not very often. But that one I did have to respond to. It was one of the Barstool accounts that basically aggregated that PJ quote, like, if you have the Big Ten kicker of the year, you must not be very good on offense. They're like, who could he have been talking about, with like some emoji? It's like himself. He was talking about the Gophers. They have the kicker of the year in the Big Ten. His name is Dragan Kessage. He's here. He's in the crowd. PJ's looking at him while he says
sitting next to me in the audience for that entire podium speech.
Why are we doing this? So I had to break my own rule of responding to stupidity. Just to, because you know how this stuff starts. I mean, that's a little brush fire, and the next thing you know, like Kirk Ferentz is being asked about it. You know, it's like, it's not a shot at Iowa. Calm down. He was talking about his own offense, which wasn't very good. Speaking of Iowa, they had 12 points against Iowa. Dragan had all of them.
Yep.
So it was, that I had to clap back on that one, because it's like, come on, we got to at some point stop stupidity. I know it's a fool's errand. It's never going to stop, but we at some point had to correct the record there. He was ripping his own team. Anyway, anything else you guys want to add on that one?
To kind of get to like House versus NCAA, I asked PJ also at Media Days here, has he talked with athletic director Mark Coyle about the House versus NCAA, the revenue sharing, in terms of, is Minnesota going to use that projected amount, that full projected amount, 20 to 22 million?
Yep.
And that's where Fleck said they have talked about it. They've had many discussions about it. And his word was, that is the expectation, which to me, maybe the most exciting thing I heard was that Minnesota is actually going to play ball and find a way to get $20 million to their student athletes. And that's,
I can tell.
Go ahead.
Apologize. I can tell you, it came right out of Mark Coyle's mouth to me. I sat with him in June and we talked about that. And he said he told the Board of Regents and he told the coaches that they absolutely unequivocally will spend to the ceiling the $21 million. He said, if you're in the Big Ten, you have to. There's no choice. Because I do wonder if you're in the SEC or Big Ten, you have to. No choice. I do wonder in the Big 12 where the TV payout is not as much. Even in that conference, I think you have to, but some schools may choose not to. But he said if you're in the Big Ten, they unequivocally are going to spend to the ceiling $21 million, because you would get absolutely destroyed in recruiting if you didn't. So now, the big question, and this is going to be that they can't answer, and this is going to be decided in the course, is that distribution subject to Title IX rules and regulations? Because if it is, and I think schools, and this will be individual schools, they'll fight it, because does 50% have to go to women athletes, 50% men? Schools are going to fight that because then it's
definitely,
it's just, their argument is going to be that this money predominantly is coming in because of football revenue, and that should be going. So if Title IX doesn't apply to it, you could probably take it to the bank that 85% of it, 80% is going to go to football. Maybe 70.
I think the projections I saw were somewhere
70, maybe 75%. Yeah, maybe 75%. As 75, that might be too high. But then you're looking at men's basketball, women's basketball, volleyball.
Yep.
Hockey, and those are probably the interesting thing is, and not that that's not interesting, but the scholarship change. What is it going to go up to 110 in football now from 85 or 105?
That's the big one, and that's what we need to spend a minute on. But go ahead.
That's and they're going to have to do that because every other school in the Big Ten is going to do it. You can just they are, and so now you start to say, okay, that's going to cost money. Are you going to offer the same amount of scholarships in other sports? Because you don't have to. You don't have to fund. And that's what Mark Coyle said. We're going to look at how we fund each program. And by that, I mean travel, scholarships, all those things. They're going to have to adjust.
Let me read from Ross Dellinger, who's been all over this for Yahoo Sports. I'm just going to read directly from his story talking about this within the last few days. In the new model, schools are permitted to offer a scholarship to each player on a sports roster up to the new roster limits. With the move, Roughly 790 new scholarships are available across the 40-plus NCAA sports listed in the settlement. According to a Yahoo Sports calculation, there are about 500 scholarships available in all sports in the current NCAA model. Under the new roster limits, it's now more than 1,200. 105 is the football limit. Baseball it's been expanded from 11.7 scholarships to now 34. And like you said, you don't have to fully fund every single sport. So I think the big question is, how many of these sports are going to be around in the next few years? With the dropping of sports at the U in Iowa and other places, was that a precursor to what's to come?
Yeah.
Because, everyone in these big leagues is going to go to 105 in football. There's just no doubt about that.
And I've had someone in the business tell me you should be nervous if you play a Olympic sport.
Yeah.
Because
unless they allow you to do the club thing where you fund your own, like gymnastics wants to do here, you're not going to get as much funding from the school. If we want to do the program, we're going to do it a different way.
That's what I asked Cole. I said, do you think this is going to lead to more sports being dropped? And he said, each school's going to have to make their own thing. He said, I don't know if we'll see that, which I think we will, but he said, you're going to see schools fund each program differently. It just is. I mean, there's Trev Alberts, the AD at Texas A&M, said college sports don't have a revenue problem; they have a spending problem. It's 100%. We've talked about this. People spend to their limit. Whatever you take in, they spend. And so this $21 million is a big deal already. And now you're saying you can add 20 more scholarships in football.
Yep.
Do the math on that. 20 scholarships times, what is it, 25,000?
Yeah,
30,000
more million. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 to 5 probably.
And ADs are not going to say no to football coaches. They're going to do it because it's a big game of chase. I'm chasing this, everybody's chasing each other. Money's got to come from somewhere. They're not going to, these administrators are not taking a pay cut. They're not getting rid of the sports, I fear. I saw a headline today. I want to read the story that I'd noticed this last night. You look at where I was watching the Olympics and, hey, this swimmer's from LSU and this swimmer's from Stanford and this swimmer. So many of these college athletes are in the Olympics that you start dropping these sports, it's going to have a ripple effect. So I do worry about the Olympic sports and their future.
I mean, even think about Sarah Bacon. If we're going to keep it local here, get the silver medal, was a diver here at the University of Minnesota.
Synchronized diving, yep.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be interesting to see the way that Coyle figures out a way to balance this. And I don't think I can really add too much to what you said in terms of everybody's going to be different with how they get there. They're going to get there at the end of the day, but how you get there between Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, I think you're going to see 3 very different paths. One's not going to be, I'm not here to say one's a right path, one's the wrong path, but I think you're going to really find out what's important to each one of these institutions here in the next 12 to 24 months.
Well, and I didn't have this in my column, but Coyle said, every one of our coaches understands that we need PJ in football to be really good. And that's what every school does, because that is your way to make a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And people may not like it. We may think it's unfair. And that's, you're losing the big picture and the broad-based program. I understand all that. And I agree, but this is where they're at in this, this is where the college sports are at, and you have to have a successful football program that packs the stadium, that brings in money, because that's where that pays the bills. And so
the big picture is slashed. The big picture is in a garage sale. If you're looking for the big picture, it's no longer here in 2024.
And it's it's unfortunate that we know sports are going to get eliminated. We just know that's going to happen, and you hate that for those athletes that are putting in as much time as anyone. I mean, it means a lot to them, but the world's changed.
It's just business. I mean,
this is how it is. Yeah, and people. I know people that hate that about it, and I understand that, but it's just this is the reality they have right now, and to say what can't be part of the reality, and what I'm telling you they won't say no to is. Let's say Wisconsin and Iowa offer 105 scholarships. Do you think Mark Cole's going to say, no, PJ, we got to stick at 85?
Right.
No chance that happens.
It's really ruining. It's actually really putting a lot of pressure on my hockey playing son as the only one that can actually get a scholarship in the sport that he plays by the time that happens. Like my swimmer, we're probably not going to be able to get a scholarship. I don't think hoops is going to be in the future. And I've got a 5-year-old gymnast now. It's like, you're going to have to find another way, kids. You better hit the books because
introduce them to books.
Yeah,
the algebra.
The sports. Yeah,
they all have healthy 529s. What do you mean?
They have 529s. Healthy is I wouldn't say healthy. They have 529. If you'd like to donate, Bernsey, I can send you the link. It's very easy. They got a couple of birthdays coming up, but yeah, my dream of the swim scholarship. Not looking great right now. The gymnastics scholarship not looking great. So it's all up to the 7-year-old and his hockey to help at least get one of the things paid for. I could help. It'd be helpful if more schools added hockey. I'm looking at you, Iowa. I'm looking at you, Illinois. I need the Big Ten to expand in hockey to get that league. Arizona State did their part. It'd be great if you wanted to go be a Sun Devil. Mom and Dad could move to Tempe and go to every game. But the Guardsy plan of play a bizarre niche Olympic sport and get a scholarship that we did in our household growing up with the tennis. The program I grew up watching, Minnesota, no longer has a program. The program I played at, Iowa, no longer has a program. So it's up to the hockey kid.
I got an idea for you.
You guys can all donate to my 529. I'll put the link on our Twitter profile. You can help send Guardsy's kids to college.
Make them a long snapper. They don't have to be like a superstar athlete. Make them a long snapper.
That's a good transition. We're going to pause here and talk about Jack's Cafe. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some recruiting news, quarterback commit, and a big-time long snapper commit flipping from Alabama. The Gophers beat Alabama for a long snapper. We're going to talk about it in a second, but it is that time. Jack's Cafe, jackscafe.com. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, we have a YouTube channel. You can see it right below Chip, the Parent and Spare podcast presented by Jack's Cafe. Make your reservations at jackscafe.com. It's almost football season. Great spot to pregame, especially for night games. Great spot to postgame after 11 o'clock kickoffs. If you want a big date night, if you want a big dinner before one of your kids goes off to college, Jack's Cafe has something for everybody, Bernsey, and we're thrilled that they're still partnering with us despite our lack of great content because Chip hasn't been around for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I'll be there next week. I got a reservation already on the books. Going to head over there with my family, celebrate a birthday. So I'm excited I'm not sure whether I want to get the steak, whether I want to get the walleye.
I think you should do both. Both and split them.
Well, even the burger.
That's what my wife and I do.
Loved the burger. And I can't, if you could have seen the look on his face, it's like it is now. He looks like a kid on Christmas after that first bite of the burger. So I'm excited to be over there next week.
Did you see my friend George from Woodbury took the photo? It's totally on brand from the parking lot. He was showing how great the parking lot. And he took one from the food with his family too. We love George. He's he came to the party the bowl game viewing party. But I love that he took the video from the picture from the parking lot, showed all the spaces, and we always have a preseason thing right?
I looked at the week 0 schedule. There's not a Jerry Kill Bowl this year like there was a year ago. You keep talking about the parking, Chip, and I'll pull up the week 0 schedule. Because
we should find one for that first week. There got to be some attractive game, right?
Not like you'd think. I'm going to pull it up here very quickly. Here,
nasty this year, but
I think there's only one night game.
But there's still plenty of patio season. We got 2 months left in patio season, 3 months maybe.
You can get into August
and in November. You got plenty of time left.
So here's our options for the Jack's Cafe Parent and Spare viewing party. There's only one night game as of now, but I think Delaware State at Hawaii will probably be our time. Probably 8 or 9. We'll see how that goes. But SMU at Nevada is literally the same time slot, 7 o'clock Central on CBS Sports Network. That's when we watched. I think it was UMass and Jerry Kill, right?
Well, now you get to watch Nevada, who comes to town. What is it? Third week of the season?
There's your answer.
Pre-game scout. Yeah.
We'll do a pre-game scout.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
That's week 0, Saturday, August 24th at 7 o'clock. But if you don't want to hang out with us and break down the Mustangs and the Wolfpack, 7 o'clock Saturday, August 24th, or even Montana State at New Mexico, which is a couple of hours before that, make your own reservations. Find your own fun at Jack's Cafe. You see it on the scroll below you, jaxcafe.com. All right, Bernsey, the biggest recruiting news of the week, the Gophers have flipped, I think, an Alabama commit, or they just beat out Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide for a big-time prospect. Who is it? What do we know about him?
Well, I'm kind of mad you called him a long snapper. He's a punter.
Yeah, he's a punter.
Oh!
Yeah, I was about to say, Chip's the one with the local eyes here. He's a Woodbury kid in Luke Rierse.
Why did I think he was a long snapper? Well, his brother was a punter, right?
So his brother was a kicker. He was I think for the U, Grant Rierse. He was a kickoff specialist, more of a kicker.
Rierse. I screwed up his position. You screwed up his name. Yeah. We'll get it.
I'll take it over.
Campus.
Yeah.
Go for it, Chipper.
Yeah, Luke Rierse, great family. Know them well. Really super talented kid. Very good baseball player.
I think he's the number one baseball prospect for 2025. He's going to play both here.
Yeah, infielder. He can pitch too. He had an arm situation this year. Didn't pitch as much, but just a really talented baseball player and punter and kicker. He kicked for us Eastridge too, and a great kid. So this is
you're
when
broadcasting from the Raptors nest right now.
I'm at the Raptors nest. That's right. Yeah, right down the road from the Raptors nest. So when they had the coaching change, he had an opportunity to come here, and so going to sounds like do both and a really. For both programs, particularly baseball, he's just a really terrific baseball player that will help that program for sure.
Yeah, he's number one baseball prospect. He's, we've seen it before where people like Jacob Herbers or even Drew Himaleski, or if you go further back, wasn't it Decker?
Eric Decker played both for a little
bit. Both. Yeah. And so I know a lot of people also love to ask the question, well, who is he technically on scholarship with? It's the football program. Who will? Yeah. So he'll be one of the 105. He'll be on scholarship. But yeah, I mean, he committed to Alabama to do both back in, I think it was December of 2013.
It was early, yeah.
2013. Yeah. So he was like 8.
He committed to Saban.
You said 2013. Was he 8 years old, or did I just black out?
For excuse me, 2023.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I want to make sure because that'd be a high impact guy there. 2013.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he committed to Saban, and that's where
8.
I know we talked with Caleb DeBoer, and Caleb wanted him to pick one or another, and he didn't really want to have to make that decision yet. And so that's where he came to camp on Saturday, punted for them, talked to Fleck afterwards, and he was like, you can absolutely do both here. We'd love you to come punt, and grew up a Gopher. So being able for the Gopher baseball program to get a big local win, especially in year one of a new regime.
That's great.
And PJ potentially gets his punter of the future as well.
Yep.
And there's another quarterback commit now as well. PJ's just lining up quarterbacks now all of a sudden, which you have to take one every year now, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And I don't think that changes. I had somebody ask me, do you think with the change to 105, do you think they take multiple quarterbacks in every class? I think they would like to, but they won't because quarterback and quarterback parents, everybody wants to feel special.
Quarterback parents. That should be the new Netflix series. Instead of quarterback, it should be quarterback parents.
Like we've seen dance moms. Give me quarterback dads, and you could fill a whole Netflix doc because some of these, it's pretty remarkable. But yeah, they have now a 2026 quarterback commit who was just up here over the weekend throwing. Owen Lansu, someone that already has double-digit offers heading into his junior year, has only started 1 year. He's from, I think, Downers Grove North is where he's from. Someone that had Northwestern among some other Power Fours. I know that Lester at Iowa was someone that keeping a close eye on him. So Minnesota being able to get ahead in recruiting, God forbid that happens at this institution. So, yeah, I'm just excited to see Minnesota start to get ahead. I think they're up to now 4 commits in their 2026 class, including a kid they took from Maryland over the weekend who I would be shocked if by the time he signs in 18 months or whatever it is, if he's not a 4-star, because he looks like he looks like something that goes to Tennessee and gets a McDonald's bag slid across the counter from Chip. So
don't give him any ideas. Chip will make a couple of phone calls after this.
Yeah,
don't give him any
ideas.
It is
crazy. Like
down the road.
I know you follow this, but like 18 months feels like 18 years in this new climate. The kids,
totally.
Well, that's going to be the thing for me is I think
it's hard to put much stock into. Yeah,
you'll actually start to see because you'll know whatever amount is that they're going to get from the rev share. Now, again, I understand in year one of all these payouts, you got a lot of back pay coming, but they'll know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars that these current players in 2025 are getting. And so then you can project out to, okay, if I sign with Minnesota, I get 200,000 compared to if I sign with NC State, I only get 50. And I think that's actually going to pay dividends. I mean, Chip, you've seen it for a long time with the way that Tennessee's been paying players forever. But that's part of how you get a good recruiting class is, I mean, you've seen Texas A&M for years line up all these 4 and 5 stars. I can assure you it's not the 12th man they're coming to play for. It's all these gigantic stacks of cash.
Well,
so I'm going to be very interested to see kind of how it all flows.
Yeah, that's another thing. Go back to that conversation I had with Mark Cool. 2 things on this. He said that they hope that this $21 million payout returns NIL, because NIL is still going to be around.
Yes.
They hope it returns to true NIL, where Darius Taylor is a star. He gets marketing opportunities because of that, versus, hey, we like that player over there. Let's offer him a lot of money and disguise it as NIL. So they hope it becomes more true. And I said, let's forget Title IX. Let's say Title IX is not part of this, and they can divvy. I said, who is each coach going to be left to say, who gets what? And he said, yeah, I mean, we're having conversations. Do we need to hire a GM that the evaluation says this guy is worth this guy is worth this? And he said their understanding at the time was, if you see a quarterback, you want to pay that quarterback $10 million, you can pay that quarterback $10 million. There's no limitations on how you disperse that money. Excuse me. So that is going to be interesting. That head coaches, it's going to be part of their qualifications now. Is like, let's say of that 21 million, football gets
14
million.
Right.
Well, now PJ has to figure out, okay, this year we've got to figure out how we're going to distribute this $14 million with recruits, it's going to be insane.
Well, Fleck talked about it at Media Days, actually, in terms of that's the next area that they have to expand is their more or less the recruiting department, because they do have a GM in Garrett Chernoff, but he's not in the traditional sense. I mean, he kind of just runs the program in terms of the day-to-day amongst a lot of other things. Man wears a lot of different hats. But it's Marcus Hendrickson's team, who is the director of player personnel, where they're going to be working with PJ to try and say, we have to allocate X, Y, Z for all of these players. Because as much as it is about quarterback, you just want to be able to retain your players like they did via Dinkytown Athletes last year. You have to figure out the best way to do it. And that's where it's going to be interesting to see, is it quarterbacks who get paid the most, and then left tackle, and then the pass rusher? But that is a whole different area, and that's something that Fleck talked about. They need to figure that out because it's going to be here sooner than they think.
And Chip, you're going to have to educate Bernsey on this type of coverage when you're a beat reporter. And as you're talking, I can already see it. I think it's going to happen in spring ball. I don't think it's going to happen in fall camp, although it might. It's going to be spring ball. You're going to show up for one of the availabilities. And I'm not saying, I'm just naming a name as an example. And Darius Taylor's not there because he's holding out. He's not going to participate in mandatory mini camp because it's going to be, those are going to be the stories. Like it was Justin Jefferson. He wasn't at OTAs. Yeah. He's going to be at mandatory mini camp. He wants a new deal. And we're going to have to, and Daniel Jackson's going to, you're going to say, hey, what do you think about Darius not being here? And here's the line that they all use. It's a business. You never mess with another man's money.
You don't mess with another man's money.
You don't mess with another man's money. That should be the official shirt of mandatory minicamp when somebody's holding out. You don't mess with another man's money. He's doing the best that he can for his family and everything. Like that is coming. You know it's coming. There's going to be a spring ball holdout until they get the contract or the rev share that they want. I just had a Brian Williams acid flashback to the Vikings when I was in the scrum when they asked Fred Smoot about the Brian Williams, I think that was his name, the corner. Back in like 2006. You never mess with another man's money.
You don't
like mandatory minicamp. It's like, oh my God, we're gonna have to do that at Athletes Village.
That's what you learn when you're the beat writer. You don't ask another player about another man's contract. They are not going to go into that. That's not. You don't mess with another man's money. Yeah, I mean it's. Let's never again mention amateur sports because this is not amateur sports. It's just not. I mean,
it's crazy.
Again, I know people that just drives them crazy. I just had a conversation with somebody yesterday about how much this person just does not like the way things are going. And I get it. I understand, but it's the reality and it's not going backwards.
You have the choice. If you want to keep investing and watching, that's your choice, but they're not changing. They're not moving it backwards. Like this is what it is now.
This is how it is going forward.
Watch it, but sitting there and complaining about it, that's not going to help anybody. So anyway, so what do we do? Do we go weekly now? I mean, it's August. This is basically August. Should we try to
camp started?
lock this up?
Chip,
Fall
are you going to
camp
find
started?
time? Because I've heard about it for the last 3-4 weeks. We try to set a date, and then Chip's got to go cover Vikings because the Star Tribune doesn't have enough people doing it. Or now you're Mr. Project. Are you going to be able to find time?
I got a couple things cooking. I got a couple
we got
projects
to put
cooking.
that on the next T-shirt. How many times have we heard that line over the last few
Let
months?
Chip cook.
I got to get him to the finish line.
Chip cook.
This is Chip right here.
I got to get him to the finish line, but I can do it weekly.
All right, get him to the finish line. We'll be back every week. Please subscribe if you haven't. However you listen to this podcast, you can follow us at Pair and Spare Pod. And who knows, maybe there'll be more content on a YouTube channel. A lot of rumors right now flying around about the Pair and Spare podcast. But please check out Jack's Cafe as well in the next couple of weeks, jaxcafe.com. And read all of Chip's projects at Star Tribune, read all of Burnsy's stuff, and see him in his sport coat at GopherIllustrated.com. And you know where to find me. I'm everywhere. Just Google my name. Something will pop up. But I'll still be here on the Pair and a Spare Pod, and we'll talk to everybody next week. See you guys.